And welcome into another edition here at the Voice of College Football. It's the College Football Show. Welcome aboard. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. And you are the reason why we show up to do this show each and every day. Great to see all of you. Tukey G leading us off, as is pretty customary. We got Todd as well. And good to see everyone. We've left the line to give me a ring there in the chat. So if you want to give me a ring concerning anything about college football, and we will discuss. I just recorded the audio on second tenures. So we've got Scott Frost going at it for a second time at UCF after he worked some magic there for sure, going undefeated just 2 years after going winless. Not him, but the previous coach, George O'Leary, winless in 2015. And of course, Scott Frost went down there and that set him up for the Nebraska job. He's coming back to Orlando, of course, this season. And for Rich Rodriguez, another Big 12 coach coming back to try to reclaim his glory days at West Virginia after stops at Arizona and Jacksonville State. So I have found 9 coaches in the history of big-time college football that went back to their first stop or a previous stop where they established themselves and made a name for themselves, and they went back for a second tenure. And I have certainly found a trend. So check out the video. It'll probably be posted later this evening or maybe first thing in the morning. We have posted prediction videos on Virginia Tech and North Carolina. Check those out. We thought we did a decent job of sizing up North Carolina and Virginia Tech for 2025 and made our predictions there. So, which means I just don't start making predictions on teams without knowing how it's all going to fit together, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because if you just start throwing out records for teams and then you don't really look at it, then you run into some problems down the road. So I had to map out the entire season in regards to, okay, what are going to be these final records in conference and overall for these teams? Start doing the videos. North Carolina and Virginia Tech are there for you to enjoy. So partake. Please like the video and subscribe. Anytime you show up, please just get into the habit of hitting the like button, even if you don't agree with me. If you enjoy college football and the discussion, the debate, the analysis, please hit the like button, or you can hit the dislike button. Go ahead and do that. Either one, just make your presence known. Leave a mark that you've been here. And, of course, your comments are always welcome. And subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. We would love to get to 100,000 subs. But it's just does not cost you a penny. There's no commitment there. It's not going to necessarily even throw my videos at you. That's something that YouTube changed a couple years ago. So if you would subscribe to any channel a couple years ago, and before that, since YouTube started, YouTube would just push those videos at you. But if you subscribe to a channel and never watch their videos, then YouTube gets it. They just go by your viewing preferences. But you know what? Let's be honest. It looks impressive. So subscribe to the channel. Thank you for that. And check out all the other team channels. I counted today. Look at our programming schedule, which is posted by both myself here on YouTube and our buddy Jackson on Twitter. 16 shows at the Voice of College Football. We're up to 16 shows, not all week, 16 on Monday. How about that? Again, it's coming out later today, I believe. 9 second tenure coaches. How did it fare for them? How will it fare for Rich Rodriguez and Scott Frost? All right. The Amazon links in the description section of this video and all the videos right here at the Voice of College Football. So when you shop on Amazon, they've got $3 trillion. They've got $3 trillion. I'm still trying to make my first billion. I'm still working on that status. So Yeah. So you might as well just send us a few bucks. Does not cost you a penny. You can contribute financially without spending a penny. How special is that? Just please use the Amazon link in the description section of this video and all the videos, and Amazon will recognize you. They've built a smart operation there. So it's not like they will have no idea it's you. They know it's you regardless of the link. So please use the link that we provide. Also, the audio from these shows is on your favorite audio platform. I guess I make an assumption there. Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, and a few others. Probably on your favorite audio platform. All right, the theme of the day is the Big 12. We're going to hit this from a historical standpoint. We're going to hit that as well. We're going to hit that. That didn't necessarily come out right. We're going to hit that also from a 2025 angle on the Big 12. When Oklahoma and Texas left the Big 12, didn't take me long to survey the remaining programs and determine this conference is never going to win a national championship. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. They could play the most exciting football. They could play the most balanced and competitive football from top to bottom, which they have. And that doesn't look like that's going to end anytime soon. There's not the stretch like there is in the other conferences from Clemson all the way down to Stanford, or Ohio State all the way down to Purdue, etc. Georgia and Texas all the way down to what is currently Mississippi State. There's not that in the Big 12. So I declared, and oh man, Big 12 fans hated me for this. They were all over me. And I understand from an emotional standpoint, but let's be logical, rational human beings, that the most recent national championship currently in the Big 12 is Colorado in 1990, BYU in 1984. I don't believe I'm missing anyone. College football was much different then, and the difficulty in winning a national championship, the postseason path, of course, was one game, and that one game was for BYU playing a 6-5 Michigan team in 1984. So we cannot compare the path to a national championship. It's not comparable. So those national championships, though valid, are not comparable to what a team would have to do now. So we will explore that in just a second and remind you, I know I got to figure it out, day and time, 2021 Michigan, Ohio State watch party. This might be the only time in history that I state Michigan ahead of Ohio State. I honored the victory there. I honored the victory, the Michigan-Ohio State watch party. So we'll have a good time with that. Day and time. Thursday night, maybe. Friday night, maybe. Wednesday night, we got the big show with Leanne Herring on the move. So that's coming up Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern. We take your calls. I shy away from Tuesday and Thursday because they've got their Michigan shows on Tuesday and Thursday. I was going to do it tonight, but they've got a Michigan member show. They got too many shows over there on the Michigan channel, and I just kind of put two and two together and figured that that would be not a good thing to do, because you Michigan fans would like to see this win against Ohio State, and we can all enjoy it together. So this is the game plan, folks. Even though we may not get this done before the end of June, this is June's watch party for all members. And I want to send out a special thanks to Blue Wolverine. Hopefully he's listening right now. Blue Wolverine, thank you so much for those gifted memberships the past week. They have been phenomenal. Thank you so much for doing that. And I hope that everyone that has been gifted a membership would thank our guy, Blue Wolverine. So we've got a good core base of members. and we would like to get it together once a month during the off season to watch an old game, a recent classic. And then when the season hits, I think I would love to do this every Monday night. That on Sunday, we look at the games from over the weekend. You all vote on the best game of the weekend. And then on Monday night, we get together and watch it every Monday night. How's that sound? Watch party Monday night. Every Monday night, I'm going to give it a shot. And if people like it, if people enjoy it, then we're going to continue. But we're going to give that a shot to start the season. Watch party Monday nights. Okay. All right, let's look at the Big 12. And before we do, we did have some significant commitments. I thought, we'll check it out here. We'll make sure. So this is via 247 Sports, and these are the latest commitments. And no, I'm not talking about Wake Forest, Central Michigan, or Liberty. Down the line, though, we've got Oklahoma. Today has brought in the 17th rated running back in the country, DeZephan Walker. And I heard some other more significant players coming in particular. Syracuse got the best punter in the country. They got a commitment out of him. Look at that. That number one next to the position, Jimmy Gregg, punter. Remember the name. Nebraska got Hayden Ainsworth, an offensive lineman, guard, center out of Biloxi, Mississippi, going to Nebraska. How about that? No, I saw a couple commits coming in for Florida and USC. So these are not listed here. So 247 Sports has apparently not updated its commitments. Let me catch these real quick since I've already started. Here they are. So this is coming in from ESPN. Their top 300 guy, linebacker Talanoa Ili, chooses USC over UCLA. He's the number 53 player in the country, according to ESPN. So he's probably top 50 to 100 in all the services, commits to USC. So that obviously bolsters their class. 6'4", 215 defender from Orange, Cali. Also considered BYU, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Texas. So we're not going to spend too much time on him. Hopefully our USC bunch will have more on him. So check out the USC channel. Philip Fulmer's grandson commits to Tennessee 2027. All right. We also have Florida gets a commitment from five-star defensive end Realignment McCoy. So Florida with an edge rusher and Billy Napier not only just barely escaped the guillotine, he is now thriving in Gainesville. 6'7", 260 McCoy out of Tupelo, Mississippi, the home of my favorite singer. Initially committed to LSU, McCoy reopened his recruitment in February, trimmed it down to Florida, LSU, and Texas. But stay tuned. This is the second or third week of June. We've got all the way until National Signing Day in December. So we're not going to spend too much time on that. And again, check out our fine folks there with the Florida channel to discuss the latest with the Gators signing a five-star defensive end and USC also with one of the top 50 players in the country. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We got the real MVP on the line.
Hey, Mark, how you doing this Monday afternoon?
Doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. So, Mark, what is the title of this video entail? Okay. What hope does the Big 12 have? Or what hope?
This is what we've done in recent days is I posted a video the other day looking at the current Big 12 schools and how they rank all time. Now, this is getting a little clunky to try to accomplish because if you look at the history of the Big 12, it's been completely, sorry, Texas fans, completely dominated by Oklahoma. They completely dominated the conference from the time they stepped in, almost all the way through. And so if you're like trying to evaluate, okay, who are the best programs in the history of the Big 12, you could do it in terms of trying to take all these schools and just look at what they did when they were in the Big 12. But that's a bit much for my database, which pretty much just runs between my two ears. So we are currently going from conference to conference, and we started kind of at the bottom with the Big 12. Sorry, Big 12 fans, but down there with the Big 12. And so I am just going to unveil the various categories and those rankings. So then I thought, well, that's a bit historical for some people, and we may want to upgrade or bring up to date our topic for the day, because we're just kind of on the cusp of getting, once we get to next month, it's all full bore on 2025. So I thought I would give it an updated look by also contemplating, even though you and I both agreed a couple of years ago when these conference realigned that the Big 12 has no chance of winning a national championship. However, I'm thinking, okay, maybe in this new age, maybe I'm just trying to find a glimmer of hope. And maybe in this new age, think about this. Let's start with two very different situations. One would be at Arizona State University. They have, it appears, found themselves a head coach who knows what he's doing. He's extremely good, extremely talented, extremely confident, and he's like 34 years old. And if they can hang on to him, and also consider, DeBriel, that from my understanding, this has been going on for quite some time now, that the high school football talent in the state of Arizona, I don't know what they've done out there. They've made some kind of commitment to high school talent. It's probably also been bolstered by just people moving to the state. But the high school football play in Arizona has increased exponentially in the last 10 to 20 years. And then we also have a component called NIL, of course, which we automatically think, well, it favors all the blue bloods because they had all the money before. So why won't they have it now? But sometimes it may just take one or two. There's money and then there's money. There's just your run-of-the-mill multi-millionaire. And then there are those folks out there that just like they could lose $1 billion today and they wouldn't even know it. So maybe it takes one of them, and maybe one of these schools lucks into that kind of relationship and it becomes a completely different ball game. And the other unique example I'll cite is that even though I don't expect it to raise this program to those type of heights that we're talking about here, it obviously has worked to a certain extent in Boulder, Colorado, that Deion Sanders, like him or hate him, and I've been critical of him, I've praised him at times, I've been critical at other times, he is completely unique to this sport. He is his own brand. He's a brand apart from college football. He's the only person on the planet in this sport that doesn't need college football. It's not part of his personality brand or what he brings to the table. Everybody knew who he was before, and it obviously is working to some degree. Now we'll see if he can work through the transition of no Travis Hunter and no Shedeur Sanders. Can he replenish his roster? And not to say that they were anything close to winning a national championship last year, but I'm just saying it's a unique situation there. And I'm also liking what I'm seeing at Arizona State.
I mean, the Colorado thing, it's its own phenomenon. There hasn't been a coach like Deion Sanders. There probably will never be a coach like Deion Sanders. He's a 1-1. All I could say is he's gone on. His best season was being the fourth best team in his conference and having no realistic chance to win the national championship. I know in the future it may change because of the players. I can't forecast it. I don't know what people.
He took over a 1-11 football team.
I understand this, but it's much easier to go from 1-11, 9-3 than it is to go from 9-3 to 15-2 or 16-1.
I agree.
So he did the easy part. It's easy not to stink. It's easy not to just be absolute trash, okay? I mean, unless you're Florida State or Purdue. Then, you got to have exceptions for some team out there will do it. But Arizona State, if you look at their recruiting overall rankings, I looked at their last three. 2023, it was 37. 2024, it was 43. And this year, it's 60. They're just not good enough. Their players are not good enough to win a national championship. Are they good enough to maybe win a game in the college football playoff in best case scenario? Yes. But they just don't have the depth to win back-to-back-to-back good against elite teams. They just aren't good enough. And that's the problem for literally everybody on this list. They're all not good enough.
Okay. First of all, as I stated off the top, we agree on this. And before I heard from anyone else, I at least went on here. I'm not saying I was the first person to say this, but I'm saying at least not being influenced by anyone else. I looked at Oklahoma and Texas and said, this conference will never win another national championship. So I'm right there with you. I'm just conjecturing. And also, I'm not talking about is this going to happen like this year or even next year, but does a school like Arizona State with a guy like Kenny Dillingham have the wherewithal? Is it possible to become a Clemson of an ACC that at times was rubbish without them, but they were still able to win a national championship?
I mean, yeah. I mean, but the problem is that's true for every school in the P4. You're just giving generic-based hope. Why can't, under this logic, Vanderbilt win the national championship in 10 years?
Well, they would have to fight through a conference that's much more difficult as opposed to Arizona State.
See, to me, the conference insulates Vanderbilt because they're going to be able to go 8-4 in the future and make the playoffs. If you're Arizona, you got to go a minimum 10-2. So I think the fact Vanderbilt's in the SEC actually helps them.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. I understand your point, but I think that if you're one of the best schools in the Big 12, and I certainly, based on recent results, would point to other teams in the Big 12, Kansas State probably being the best. If you said, Mark, who's going to have the best record in the Big 12 over the next 10 years, I'd probably say Kansas State and feel fairly confident, even though they're going up against the field, just because they're the most sound program. But I'm looking for an opportunity where can somebody break through, and that's not Kansas State. And these are the two best destinations I can find. I guess the other one would be somewhere in Texas, just because of the recruiting base and because of the possible oil money that could come to a TCU or a Houston.
Yeah, Texas Tech would probably be the best one. I don't know if you've seen their softball program, Mark. They're just going all out. They are literally firing at will NIL money at softball. Well, they've literally become a powerhouse overnight at softball because of NIL money.
Yeah, that one has not crossed my desk yet. The Texas Tech softball prowess.
Well, they made the national championship this year, so and they got you look at the transfer portal, all the top recruits, all of them transfer. Left Tennessee, Ohio State, I think was one, went Texas Tech. They all went to Texas Tech. So they built a powerhouse just by NIL money. But this is college football. This is just a different level of sport. And you're asking the Big 12 to be something that it can't do. The Big 12, what makes it charming and unique is its level of balance between all teams. And you're asking for a team to do something it's incapable of doing. And that's being different and separating themselves from the pack. If that happens, the Big 12 loses what makes the Big 12 the Big 12.
Yeah, but I'm also looking at what happened last year and looking at Arizona State playing the most likely second best team in the country to a standoff, going to overtime in that game, and Arizona State not being fully. Now, I'm not saying that Kenny Dillingham is the next coming. I'm not saying that he is going to continue this upward climb, but let's say he is that kind of guy. Like, this is just the outset of his program. This is not him fully developing his program and all the backfill of the depth and everything that you need to be a powerhouse. This is him just stepping in and basically just piecing together, and just by sheer ability to coach and put together a staff and do all the right things in a limited period of time, getting to this point.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you take the absolute best interpretation, that's the way it's going to go. I don't think that's the most likely interpretation of how it's going to go, but the sport's going to change around Arizona, any of the Big 12 schools, where the odds of them winning the national championship, they have to at least go a minimum of like 15-2. In order for them to win it, they have to win 15 games, and that's just not true in the Big 10 and SEC. So just making the tournament for these teams is going to be extremely difficult. Even if Arizona State somehow separates themselves from the pack and they lose to a Big 12 team that's 4-8, and they end up the season 11-1, there's a plausible chance if they lose the Big 12 title game that they don't get selected in the playoffs. So I think the structure of the sport has really separated itself from where these schools can even win it going forward. And I think that's a good thing, by the way. I don't think we need these cupcake teams making the playoffs every single year. And I know that's a different discussion that I saw literally talking about today, according to Rash Dellinger. I think I got that right. So it's sad the way it's going, but it's just the way it has to be. And if the Big 12 wanted to win a national championship, they should have kept Oklahoma and Texas in their conference, but they couldn't do that. So now they're just like a G5 program. Why can't Boise State win it all? Why can't UNLV? I'd say argue Boise State, UNLV, Memphis, Tulane. These programs have an easier path to win it all. If all you got to do is just have an elite coach, build up your roster, and win 2 or 3 games, you don't even have to win every non-conference game. You're going to lose one every year because you're playing a Power 4 team. So you'll go 11-1 like Boise State. You could. I mean, look at what they did against Penn State. They hung against Penn State for 2.5 quarters. Then they would have been in the Final Four. And then they would have played a Notre Dame team of pretty similar, equal talent to them. So I think this is true what you're talking about for every single team. And that has any sort of chance to win it all. Not your Jack States or Conference USA teams or MAC teams, but, your high caliber G5 teams as well.
All right.
Okay, so something else I was going to ask you about, Mark, is Texas State. I'm sure you saw the news. Texas State is favored to join the Pac-12. I mean,
yes.
Why? What? I mean, really, Mark? Texas State?
Yeah, so I haven't really looked into that in regards to why Texas State, but of course the Pac-12, when we say the name Pac-12, we have to dismiss how we hear that, how that resonates. It's not going to be a power conference. It's 2 best programs. Well, it's 3 best programs. It's most likely going to be Boise State, Washington State, and Oregon State. And they tried to take. They generally took the best of the Mountain West, and they still needed one more spot. And I don't know what the reservation was among. So I'm trying to think out of the 4 teams. So they had 2, Washington State, Oregon State. They picked up another 5 to get to 7. So that would have been Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State. Who were the other 2? UNLV?
Anyway. Utah State.
Right? Yeah.
And San Diego State, Boise State, Fresno, Colorado, Oregon State, Washington State.
Yes. Okay. So I'm trying to scan the league and remember if there was anyone else. Really, the best football programs are Boise State and have been in the past San Diego State and Fresno State. They pretty much outclass everybody else in the conference, and then maybe Air Force. So I don't know that there was anyone really a cut above left in the conference that they would go after or want to keep. So there must have been some type, maybe it's a recruiting angle. Maybe there were finances involved that made Texas State. Maybe Texas State is is burgeoning and growing as a enrollment. I don't know any of those things.
Maybe, but I mean, I just can't. Oh, also, I want to say this: Gonzaga's joining as a non-football member, so that's nice for the basketball program of the Pac-12 to add some legitimacy to get Gonzaga.
Yeah.
But to who good is going to say, you know where I'm going to commit to? I'm going to commit to Texas State. They're the eighth best team maximum in the state of Texas. I feel like you could have gone to a Tulane, a South Florida, a Memphis, somebody like that in order to expand your footprint, just become the best of the G5. But Texas State, you even get UTSA, you even get the Roadrunners.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that is a better destination at this point for a Memphis or Tulane than being one of the best teams in the American Conference.
I don't know. It's interesting to find out because I know the Pac-12 is trying to work on a media deal. They don't even have that, but it feels like with how thought out the American Conference is, it's not the American Conference of 10 years ago. I mean, Army was clearly the best team in that conference, for goodness sake. So,
yeah, we went on a string of years where there was one school that would emerge every year that was a pretty legitimate team, like a pretty legitimate, like top 15 to 25 team. Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, somebody, Tulane, a little bit later.
Yeah. Do you think with the addition of the mighty powerhouse Texas State Bobcats, does this mean the Pac-12 is officially back to P5 status, or is that just long gone?
Yeah, that is such an incredible stretch to make. I just don't think they're going to be able to. The best that the new Pac-12 can hope is that Boise State just continues to be a powerhouse. And hey, if they represent us meaning the Pac-12, in the college football playoff, let's say every 3 times out of 5 years, then we got a pretty good stranglehold on that thing.
Yeah. I mean, it would be good for them, and I think it would add legitimacy for them to be the best of the rest. Do you think that's their kind of intention and goal, is just to become the best G5 conference and just kind of swallow up everybody else? That feels like their strongest play to me.
Yeah, so they have 2 former power conference programs that at times have been actually legitimate, fairly strong power conference, programs that have been able to, mostly fill stadiums of 40 and 45,000 people. So for a group of 5 to be able to start out their conference and have that as a building block, those 2, and then bring in the most successful group of 5 program since basically we've had group of 5, even before that was a thing in terms of a name, in Boise State. And then, like I say, San Diego State and Fresno State, for much of the last 30 years, have been 2 of the best group of 5s in all the entire country. Really, Tulane and Memphis are the best, unless I'm missing somebody. Tulane and Memphis are the best American Conference programs. They don't have a very long track record of being good. It's very brief. It's very recent.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And they're just one head coach away from going back to obscurity. Yeah. I think with John Summerall, I expect him pretty soon to be, I don't have anything, this is speculation on my part, but I expect him to be the next coach of Kentucky within like the end of the calendar year, because Mark Stoops' tenure is completely over. John Summerall was a former player, assistant coach for Kentucky, so I expect him to go there because it's an SEC job, which means it's infinitely better than Tulane, for goodness sake. So I don't know where Tulane's going to go from there.
I definitely think that's a good call. And it's amazing when you talk about these group of 5s. Yes, many of them just hang by a wire in terms of who did they hire as a head coach. You can go through almost every conference in the group of 5 that's been a program on the low side, throw out Kent State and Akron because they don't know how to run a football program. Except Kent State actually got one for a few years, and they actually did fairly well for about 3 years. Then, of course, he went to Colorado. And then on the high end, what's remarkable is that Boise State. So I guess my original point was extending off of your point that yes, getting the right head coach at the group of 5 level is everything. You can go from school to school, and 90% of them have been atrociously bad and pretty good. They've been in this huge range because it's really not a program, it's a coach. But Boise State has bucked the trend. Man, everyone they bring in that place, this has been going on for 25 years.
Yeah, it shows how impressive it has been. And they've really, to me, why they've been able to do it is they have no real G5 competition in that area of the country. Yeah. So they're.
And you know what's fortunate for them, Daryl, and I just saw an article on this. I didn't read it because I pretty much, well, I shouldn't assume that I knew what was in it, but I already knew that with kind of the chaos going on in California, I'm not talking about the recent situation, but I'm just talking about over the last 5 years or so, and a lot of people being displeased about what's going on there, and also on the West Coast, but primarily there. And I really found this out when all the realignment stuff was going on, and I was trying to piece together different options, and I looked into Boise and the market increase in Boise, and then I started to look into it, and it was tied to people leaving California, finding that Boise, Idaho is actually growing and it's new, and there's a lot of new industry and retail and a lot of new architecture, and I guess it's kind of a cool place to live. It's cold, but besides that it's this, their market size went up like 25% in 4 years.
That's an insane level of growth for anybody, any part of the country. 25% in 4 years is just insane. Yeah. Do you think they're able to kind of keep that up? Because I know a lot of people are leaving California and going east to like Vegas, Boulder, Colorado. So do you think this trend could continue for Boise State?
Well, they certainly have enough land to keep just building, there's not a whole lot there. I've never been there. I shouldn't state from a fact, but you go to some of these major cities now and it's unbelievable. I remember going to Denver. I used to go out there a lot, and just realizing that you can be like 35 miles away from the city and you're basically, you're surrounded by hotels and condos and retail, and you're basically in Denver, but you still have 35 miles to drive to get to the heart of the city, because that's how much these cities have grown and just continue to expand. So knowing what little I know about the state of Idaho, I think there's plenty of room to expand.
Yes, I would also assume this is true for the Colorado, Wyomings of the world as well, Mark.
Yeah.
If you are looking at it from the G5, and you've had a lot of FCS movement, because they seem to be focused on the West Coast still and trying to keep geography, do you think you get an Idaho, a Montana State, and Idaho State? These are some of the premier powerhouses in FCS football now. I mean, Delaware, for goodness sake, has made the jump from the FCS level to the FBS level. I feel like Montana State would be significantly better than them and have more legitimacy.
Yeah, I don't know outside of prestige what that does for a school. I don't know if that just automatically, if we went and talked to James Madison and those type of schools, Jacksonville State, just to say, okay, why did you make this decision? Show us your accounting. What does this do for you? Just simply playing FBS football, even though most of us are completely ignoring their schedule and their games from week to week, just looking at the score and saying, oh, Jacksonville State beat Georgia Southern 31-27, great, but having no interest in it. But also that they go and, make their 2 trips to go play Auburn and Tennessee and get trounced, but make a lot of money, and having more of an opportunity to do that, being an FBS team versus an FCS team. Not that the SEC and other conferences don't play FCS teams. I don't have an answer in regards to, except for, and we shouldn't underestimate the cachet of having a big time football program, because I remember growing up and seeing periodic articles in the Akron Beacon Journal every 4 to 5 years where they would do a hardcore investigation into the Akron University and Kent State football programs, basically to say, why do they have football programs? Because nobody's at the games and they don't make money. They actually lose money, and it's a embarrassment, and the teams are terrible. Why are they playing football? And it really came down to, it's prestigious to say that you've got a quote unquote major college football program.
So it's just basically to say you have one, even if it makes no legitimate financial sense at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the impact on enrollment. Now, we know that the impact on enrollment at some place like, can you think of a program that just jumped out of nowhere and did something big? I know there's been cases in the last, maybe UCF would be one, where Houston, where Colorado is a major one. I've seen their enrollment, and you wouldn't think that they would need enrollment. It's a state school. They don't, but regardless, that the enrollment at Colorado has skyrocketed, but those have been places that have actually won.
Beginning to the end.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I didn't, Kuz said it best, I think, a while back ago. College football and college athletics is the front porch to your university. Yeah. And I think that's a great way of putting it. It's a good introduction to how it's like, it's free advertising, free marketing of, hey, how do people know where you're from? Or why do you root for this team? It gets people invested. So I think that was a great way of putting it. But Mark, I'm looking forward to watching, I guess, some Texas State, Colorado State football and Pac-12 after dark. I can't believe this is what it's come to, Mark, for realignment. But here we are.
That's it. That's it, Real. Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, and that is a great way to put it. I don't know where I first heard that term, maybe 20 years ago, about a football program in particular. It could be the basketball program as well, but usually the football program being, the front porch of your home as a university, because you could have the best biology department, and you could have all of these curricular activities, extracurriculars, and all sorts of academic prowess, but people aren't aware of those things. You really have to be entrenched in the academic scene in America to know what's going on there. Many of us know that Stanford is an academic success kind of connected to football and us learning of Stanford. Now, I don't know if that was the deal for me. It probably was, just because I knew about Stanford football before I knew that Stanford was an academic elite. So yeah, somebody coined that term at some point that caught on and made a whole lot of sense. All right, Kenson, thank you so much for reminding everyone to please subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. We would love to get a subscription from you, and it cost you nothing. All right, next up, we got Dan stopping by. Dan, what's going on?
Yeah, howdy, Mark. How's it going? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. How you doing?
Well, you told me to take about a month and a half off, so I did, and I got busy with some things, another funeral, and just working away. But how you been, sir?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
Well, like you said, you wanted me gone for about a month and a half, 2 months. Well, promise requested.
Well, I appreciate that. What's on your mind today?
So the title of the video said, "Is there any hope for the Big 12?"
Yes.
And actually, you know that I've talked about the Big 12 over the last couple of months.
I was not aware of that, but go ahead.
Over the last couple of months. after Ohio State won their ninth national championship. And pointing out to UCF's like kind of jumping out of nowhere.
Yes.
That surprised me, first of all. But I feel like also there's also good teams like Iowa State, BYU. Two great teams that, honestly, in my opinion, could go back to the college football playoffs and absolutely, maybe give somebody like Georgia, Notre Dame, even my Ohio State Buckeyes a challenge.
Okay.
Because Iowa State's running backs, their running back room is really what kind of is catching my eye, honestly, because they have a great running back room, but also they got a lot of talented guys on the wide receiver position. They got a good quarterback. They got a good defense, but it's the running back room at Iowa State that really, draws my eye, because I feel like Ohio State's defensive line would be, challenged by Iowa State's running back room, but also BYU, another great team with a great offense and great defense. I feel like that would be a good matchup in the playoffs, because it would really test Ohio State gets someone like I said, BYU or Iowa State. They got a lot of great starters. Excuse me. I just had a bunch of Chipotle today. But in my opinion, I feel like that's where maybe that could give Ohio State some problems, Iowa State and BYU. UCF, I feel like in the next year or two, they might jump out and just, make a big impact in the world of college football, especially the Big 12. But also West Virginia with Coach Rodriguez and his staff coming back with some of their guys. I feel like that's really going to make an impact. Now, that's just me. That I could be wrong. Someone please let me know in the comments if they feel like they disagree with me. I would love to hear back from I'd love to hear anybody's argument about that.
So your argument basically is that you like West Virginia, UCF, BYU, and Iowa State to challenge for the playoff,
but also make a big upset. Like, for example, Iowa State beats Notre Dame by like a significant amount of points, or UCF goes in there and beats Clemson, or Iowa State beats Ohio State in the national championship. Like, come on, like I want like those big impact games. I don't want Alabama, Notre Dame. I want something that'll really shock college football to its core.
Okay.
This whole, I want it to shock the media also, but it's just, I'll give credit to, the teams I've mentioned, Iowa State, BYU, West Virginia, UCF. I feel like I give them credit not only because they have great coaching staffs, but also they're trying to make their programs better and just trying to uplift those guys up. And that's in my opinion. Now, like I said, if someone wants to argue with me about that, they can let me know in the comments.
Okay. Well, we don't need to go to the comments necessarily. I think I can bring up a few points here. So, obviously, Arizona State played a great game against Texas, and they proved themselves to be very worthy of playing in the playoff last year. And Iowa State, of course, played in the Big 12 championship game. I have all sorts of respect for Iowa State football because of what Matt Campbell's done. He's one of the best coaches in the country. He's built a tremendous program. They have a really good team. They had a really good team last year. Do I believe that they can seriously contend in the playoff? No. If Iowa State showed up at a national championship game like you are saying, oh my goodness, I would be shocked. They would have to win 3 games to get to the national championship game. Same thing with BYU. That's one of the reasons why I threw this out there in regards to the title of the show today, just to see if we could find some hope for the Big 12. Now, when it comes to UCF and you putting the label on UCF as having one of the best coaching staffs in the country, I would guess you would be hard pressed to name any coaches on the coaching staff, but Scott Frost is not a good head coach. So I kind of challenged that claim in particular.
No, and I was just saying, like, West Virginia, Iowa State, and BYU have good coaching staff, not particularly UCF in general. I'm just saying Iowa State, BYU and West Virginia have great coaching staffs. Now, I feel like the coaching staff at UCF could improve, but also, get some coaching changes at UCF and give Scott Frost some help because they have a great, talented team at UCF.
They do.
Their team is very good, and it's just the coaching staff that needs the help. That's what specifically needs help.
Okay. All right, Dan.
Now,
well, we appreciate you calling.
No, not a problem, man. Anytime, just shout me out in case y'all need anything.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good one.
See you.
You take care, man. All right. I'm a bit wobbly on the UCF take there in particular. Not really understanding, but that's fine. That's fine. UCF's coaching staff needs some help. I've not looked into every specific coach on the UCF staff. I could do that. I'm making a bit of an assumption here, but I think it's a pretty reasonable assumption that with a new head coach in Scott Frost, almost the entire staff is new. So we don't know that they need help. But regardless, UCF, yes, Scott Frost, Rich Rod at West Virginia. I can guarantee if somebody, I'm not really a betting man, not that I haven't laid a couple thousand wagers in my life, but really don't partake in it right now. But I certainly would bet. I would bet a lot of money. I would bet a lot of money, at least a lot for me, that neither Scott Frost nor Rich Rodriguez is going to hit their winning percentage from their first tenure at UCF in West Virginia. Does anyone disagree with that? Go look up Rich Rod and Scott Frost's winning percentage, their first go at it at West Virginia and UCF. Rich Rod was 60-26, and Scott Frost was, do the math, carry the 19-7 at UCF. Those coaches are not doing that again. They will not equal those kind of records. So, yeah, I'll basically say after a call like that, we do appreciate everyone's call as long as they're being respectful. And certainly Dan was, and we know he's a great college football fan. I didn't entirely understand the point. All right. We got Edward saying UCF have a picture of Mark Rogers in the locker room. What, saying that they've got the worst coaching, not the coaching staff. I'm not going to tear apart the coaching staff. That would be disingenuous for me to do because I've not studied their coaching staff, but their head coach, until further notice, mark it down right here, until further notice, UCF, Scott Frost is the worst head coach in Power Conference football. He's the worst. He is dead last. He's last. I'm trying to think who is new to head coaching in the Power Conferences. I don't know there's a coach who is new because Wake Forest has a new coach, but that's Jake Dickert from Washington State. So he's coached in the big time. All the coaches in the Big Ten have coached in the big time. Purdue's new coach, Barry Odom, was at Missouri. Deshaun Foster's got his year in at UCLA. We got all those coaches in the Big 12. Am I missing somebody? Is there a coach in the Power Conferences that has never been a coach before? Fran Brown, of course, his first year at Syracuse was highly successful. New head coaches. Yeah, Jeff Lebby in his second season. Yeah, I don't think that there's a coach in Power Conference football who is a first-timer this season. That guy does not exist. No. So my point was going to be, if there is a head coach, Brent Brennan would be another one. Second year in the Power Conference, and his first year was awfully rough. that, yeah, I am fairly confident in stating that Scott Frost, and I will add Brent Brennan, I'll put them on equal terms because Scott Frost, of course, was a rousing success for two seasons at UCF. And the only reason the first season was a rousing success at 6-7 was because they were 0-12 the year before. So he got to a bad situation, turned it around 13-0 the second year. However, just it cannot be overstated how awful Scott Frost was at Nebraska. That is one of the worst coaching jobs since I've been watching football. Brent Brennan, now he's only coached one season at Arizona. A lot of players departed. A lot of players left to chase Jed Fish to Washington. But he did have a highly accomplished quarterback and an up-and-comer in Noah Fafita, and also had Datora McMillan, not arguably, he was a first-round pick, but one of the best wide receivers in college football. And not that you can win with a quarterback and a wide receiver, but Arizona was just incredibly inept last year. They were terrible. Like UCF was terrible, and Arizona lost to UCF by 45 points. Like they were awful. And then you got Oklahoma State. Is Oklahoma State going to be any better this year? I see no indication from their transfer portal additions, but I do have some level of faith in Mike Gundy, and he certainly earned our respect and earned the right to continue to coach there at Oklahoma State. Now, I'm not one of these people that says at a certain point you've earned the right to coach as long as you want. No, I do not believe in that. As soon as maybe you have earned the right to have a longer leash than other people, other coaches, but nobody has earned the right just to write their own retirement check and just say, hey, I'll ride off into the sunset whenever I feel like it. I don't care if you're Bobby Bowden or Joe Paterno or Nick Saban. I don't care who you are. Nick Saban is the greatest coach in the history of college football. And if he started going 3-9, you know what? 2 of those and see ya. Again, if you're Alabama, 3-9, it would have been gone for anybody else. Him, I'd give him another one, then say, you know what? You've lost your fastball, your curveball, your spitter, everything. You've lost it all. See ya. We'll throw you a big party and parade. So I don't believe anybody earns the right, regardless of what you've done in the past. That's worth a pension. That's why you get a pension, because of what you've accomplished in your tenure, and a pat on the back and parties and gifts and those sorts of things. But to maintain your job, you got to do the job. If you can't currently do the job, then again, there's a little grace period to say, okay, so-and-so can't do the job anymore. Let's give them a few weeks. Let's say this was a normal job where you had some tremendous employee for 20 years, and then it was pretty obvious that maybe it was kind of a situation that we've seen in the Oval Office, a couple of years ago, where just suddenly, you're a shell of a person and you're completely empty between the ears, but you still say, you know what, we're going to keep them around for a couple. God bless him, Lee Corso could not do the job for years and 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 years. I would have kept him around for like 2 years and been like, hey, Mr. Corso, you're amazing. We love you. You're phenomenal. You can no longer do this, though. And we've watched it for a couple of years now. So we're not going to watch it for 20 years. Not going to watch it for 20 years. Yes. Whatever I'm going to be doing at that point in my life, which I hope is a long, long ways from now, I would expect my kids to take me and be like, no, we're going to put you over here. We're going to take you away from damaging anything or embarrassing anything or yourself. And we're going to put you over here because you can no longer do X, Y, and Z. Hopefully I would have recognized that before. Appreciate you being there, Edward. Thank you so much. Exploring with Ben. Todd's here. C. John is here. C. John says, which style of a Big 12 program will have the most success? The development programs like Kansas State, Iowa State, Utah, or portal heavy programs like Colorado, Texas Tech, and BYU? Well, I would have told you a few years ago, and it would have proven that the development programs, the Wisconsins and Kansas States, those are the programs that with limited resources and recruiting bases, if they get the right coaches and coaching staffs that truly know how to develop, that is the way to go to build a rock solid foundation. What Bill Snyder did at Kansas State, again, check out the video. I'm going to post it in a few hours or maybe in the morning. I'm going through second tenure coaches, meaning guys that were at a particular school, left, and then they came back and comparing their results from one tenure to the next. Came up with 9 of these examples. And of course, we got Scott Frost this year at UCF coming back and Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia. Bill Snyder had a stretch at Kansas State. At Kansas State, where he went 109-29. He won 79% of his games. Finished in the top 25 10 times in 11 years. And in 11 years, finished in the top 10 6 out of 11 times. Does that happen at Kansas State now? No. That guy was remarkable what he accomplished. So that would be my old school answer. My new school answer would be, you know what? You could possibly pull off. Well, let's see how good Texas Tech is this year. I don't know. I guess BYU's a portal heavy program. I haven't really noticed that. We know that Texas Tech has been this past year in particular really invested in their roster. And then, of course, Colorado with Deion Sanders. And that has worked like a charm thus far. But this year, no Travis Hunter, no Shedeur Sanders. I know they didn't win just because of those two guys. But I don't know. Let's put it this way. Football's a depth sport. You need not just great players. You need layers of players. You need great players, really good impact players, all conference kind of players. Then you need even just really good players. You need lots of them. I don't know if there's a team in college football over the last 2 years, and especially this past year, since they won 9 games, that was propped up by a fewer number of players than Colorado. I don't think there was another good team, quote unquote, good team in college football that had less than Colorado and is propped up by a sprinkling of great players. So it could be a crash for the Buffs this year. It could be a big crash. Caden Salter's the quarterback, of course. Edward, thank you so much for that. That's very kind. I appreciate that. That made my day. You will be in the Hall of Fame of the best college football shows with the voice of college football. Oh, I'm sorry. Adam had a super chat. Adam, I hope you're still with us. I did not, even though I didn't want to say anything nasty about Drew Aller today. I'm just reading. I'm going to have to maybe make that disclaimer for the Aller family if they're tuning in at any point and they would misidentify this as being something that is stated by me and my opinion. But Adam is stating here, and thank you so much for the contribution, Adam. And we do, let me state this. I would like to encourage everyone to contribute in some way to the Voice of College Football. You're our community and team. Hit the like button, subscribe, tell people we're here, mark it down on your little calendar every day, 4 p.m. Eastern time, all those sorts of things. And of course, we would enjoy your financial contributions, and that's what keeps us going and will eventually be the difference in regards to financial contributions and us continuing to thrive and succeed or not. So we do appreciate that, but in no way do I want you to do so forth if you have any kind of financial hardships. All right, Mark. Dylan Raiola is a poor man's Drew Aller. I can't say I agree with that. Raiola cares more about the looks than about football. No class. Okay. The Big 12 teams have no chance of winning a title and should not receive an automatic bid. Okay. Second point, well taken. I don't agree with the second half of the last sentence, that they don't deserve to receive an automatic bid. They're playing big time college football. You win a conference, you go to the playoff. You've earned a playoff spot rather than playing in a better league and losing games. There's a balance there. There's a tension between the two. And the Big 12 teams have no chance of winning a title. I do agree. Now, yeah, Dylan Raiola, I've poked fun at him a couple times just because it is rather odd to see him emulate Patrick Mahomes, but that's fine. I don't really get and so maybe he is caught up in his reputation, his looks, whatever. I don't know. If he's caught up in his looks, maybe he could step up his game. I don't know. Drew Aller, though, I don't get the connection there between Aller and Raiola other than them being disappointments. According to you, Adam, they're not according to me. Drew Aller had a poor playoff and, of course, threw away the game with the national championship game on the line. Dylan Raiola, did he have a good freshman season? No. Was it a horrible one? No. Was it even a poor one? It was a poor season by a college football quarterback, but considering that he was just a freshman, a true freshman, it was an okay season. I didn't see any passes out of Dylan Raiola last year that just, I know that he's got tremendous passing skill. Of course, he was scouted to be the best coming out of high school, but I didn't see him do anything. All of his successful plays that I saw were pretty average, routine passes. And I saw him throw a lot of bad passes. So I don't disagree with you on your evaluation about Dylan Raiola last year. He wasn't very good, but he also was a true freshman. So let's see what he's got this year. There should be the most success and most improvement from one season to the next, from that year 1 to year 2. All right, folks, we were going to delve into my all-time Big 12 rankings, but we have run out of time. We may at some point, okay, I guess I'll go to Adam here briefly. But yeah, we were going to show our Big 12 all-time rankings and get your thoughts and opinions on those. So I'll just let the video play and you'll see the various statistics that have been compiled here at the Voice of College Football. And we've hit the bewitching hour of, we're about 15 minutes over, but when Adam calls, hey, it's worth the go. So, hey, Adam.
Mark, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. Thanks so much for taking my call. I'm sorry if I'm late. Just as you were ending the show. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the reason I'm calling, and I won't be more than just a couple minutes.
No, you're fine.
Is to resolve the Drew Aller controversy. Because, I'm sure people are getting sick of me mentioning Drew Aller day after day. But here's the thing. Against Ohio State, he was terrible. Against Boise State, he was terrible. And against Notre Dame, he threw a horrible and inexplicable interception. Now, the reason I say no class is because if you look at his reaction after that interception, he was grabbing his helmet looking like he was shocked and stunned that he just did that. No self-awareness whatsoever, okay? This guy is not a big-time quarterback. And Penn State is not going to be winning any national championship. And I don't understand where the praise for Drew Aller comes from. It's easy as a quarterback at Penn State to defeat mediocre teams in Happy Valley. But when you are consistently poor against Ohio State, Boise State, and against Notre Dame, makes me question whether the hype and the praise of Drew Aller is warranted? And I believe the answer to that question is no.
So it appears as though a lot of people, especially in this social media age, like to make an evaluation on people in general, even outside of sports, based on some type of visual indication of something. So it's been long since been my take that I am not the guy that reads facial expressions. I see all sorts of idiots on YouTube, and I'm not even talking about sports people, I'm talking about sports people, news people. A lot of people make a lot of assumptions, and I will call them out to being complete idiots that think that they can read people's minds and they know what somebody was thinking and know because they scratched their head or they winked or they raised an eyebrow that meant that they were lacking confidence or they were this or they were that. I'm not that guy. I guess I'm not that intelligent. I guess I don't have that much perception. I can think of maybe 3 times, and I couldn't even tell you what they were, 3 times that I ever said, yeah, that player looked shaken on the sideline, or that coach looked like completely frustrated. And that was typically like when Urban Meyer was down on his knees holding his head. That was pretty obvious that he was frustrated at that point. I think that I wasn't going out on a limb at that point, but I'm just not that guy. So I don't know how Drew Aller is supposed to respond, especially when these guys are wearing helmets and I can't see his facial expression. At that point, Adam, to me, the game's over as long as Notre Dame can kick a field goal. So if he slammed his helmet into the grass and started screaming, some people would love that and say, well, at least he shows that he cares. And other people would say, well, that's completely unprofessional and he shouldn't do that. And there's like, when you succeed, there's almost nothing that you can do that's wrong. And when you fail, there's hardly anything in terms of reaction that is going to solicit a positive response.
That's a very fair point and well taken. And I would just make 2 general points. Number 1, Drew Aller did not lose once against Ohio State. Drew Aller suffered 2 losses against Ohio State. He did not just lose to Ohio State. Ohio State outscored Penn State, but Drew Aller also lost to Penn State's defense, which outscored him. And I want to make it clear that, to Drew Aller fans and Drew Aller's family, of course we know Drew Aller is a good quarterback. That's a given. My criticism, which is often in half jest or hyperbole, is to highlight that there are some weaknesses there that make me question whether he is an future NFL quarterback. And I think what he has to do this year is he has to go into Columbus and he has to show substantial improvement. He has to show that he can lead that 85-yard drive in 90 seconds to win against whomever team he's playing on the road. Until he does that, I remain skeptical.
Yeah, so Adam, I certainly respect your opinion and hope you know that. I also don't disagree with your evaluation on Drew Aller to a certain extent. So the way I evaluate his playoff performance was he was nondescript, irrelevant against SMU. That wasn't his fault. It was just that kind of game.
Right.
He stepped on the field like 2 times and they were already up like 21-0. Like the game was over. The defense won the game. They took the ball away, won the game. He just had to hand the ball off. The game was over.
True.
Like I think the first time I'm watching that game and I recall thinking, oh, he threw a ball downfield and completed a nice pass. That's the first thing he's done. And it was already like 28-0. So it was completely irrelevant what he did.
Agreed.
There would be few examples of us finding a quarterback who had less to do with the outcome of a game. All right. Then against Boise State, somebody was on here the other day. This was just in the last few weeks. It might have been our Penn State guy that actually thought he played well against Boise State, and I disagreed. I've said that many times. He did not play well against Boise State. And then he plays Notre Dame. And even beyond, not that he didn't throw some nice passes, but he was not consistently good against Boise State by any stretch. nor against Notre Dame. So it wasn't like he played this amazing game, threw for 350 yards against Notre Dame, and then made this horrific mistake at the end. He didn't play well the entire game. So
Right.
I don't disagree with you on those points.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I just think when I see a player get so much praise, I often meet it with skepticism because I look at what they do, and what he's done has not yet sold me on his NFL potential. But I will say this, DJ Lagway, I think that's a different story and will be a big story for Florida.
Well, where does Drew Aller get all this praise? Are you talking about from me or whom?
Oh, not just from you, but from a number of commentators. But I don't think your praise has been disproportionate to what he's done on the field. I think it's been measured and reasonable.
Okay.
But there's a lot of rankings out there that say Aller's one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and I'm asking myself, well, why? What has he done?
Absolutely he is.
So
let me explain myself, Adam, to a certain extent, because sometimes I say this and sometimes I fail to give this context when talking about Drew Aller. I don't think Drew Aller's a great quarterback. I think he could become a great quarterback this year. It's possible. I don't know that he will or won't. I wouldn't bet against him. I wouldn't bet on his side either. What I will say is that in the absence of great quarterbacks, we don't have a quarterback in this country going into this season that is both super talented and has a track record. We've got guys with track records, Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, but they're not elite quarterbacks. Then we have elite talent, but they haven't done anything. Arch Manning, Dante Moore, Julian saying, well, those guys haven't done anything, but they could be great, but we have no idea. Like, we don't have Bryce Young coming back, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, like for their last season, CJ Stroud. I don't see anyone of that caliber. And so I've said Drew Aller, to me, is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but it's a very low bar, and I can't remember there being a bar this low.
That's a very fair point. And so I would say, based on that context, that we're pretty much in agreement on Drew Aller. As far as Arch Manning goes, I've never in my life seen a quarterback make millions of dollars for doing nothing.
But you can't fault him.
I don't fault him at all. Good for him. I'm sure he's good for him. He's got a great life now. But why are we paying all this money to somebody who hasn't done anything? I wish they would do that for me. I'll take millions of dollars before I try a case. Hey, I mean, but what kind of message does that send to these players? And what kind of values are we teaching our young people when they're getting rich, but they're not earning it? And I worry that college football is not just a sport. It's an educational experience for young people. What values are we teaching these kids now where they want to transfer because they don't start, or they're worried about how much money they get, like Bryce Underwood, who's going to flop at Michigan? What is the point? What values or what education are we giving to these kids? How are they going to succeed in life when they hit adversity, when they have to persevere through failure?
Well, I don't know that we know at this point if Bryce Underwood is going to flop at Michigan.
I think he's an amazing talent, but I do question the intangibles. The intangibles to me for a player are everything. And someone who leaves LSU like he did, and for the reason I believe he did, raises questions about his judgment. And that's my concern, is that he may not have the intangibles.
So the first name that popped into my head when you made that point, and I don't think it's a bad point or an inaccurate point, it remains to be seen, and he could be a guy that lacks toughness and mental toughness. But Eli Manning came to mind. I didn't like when Eli Manning circumvented the NFL and got his way and didn't want to go to San Diego because they were not a top franchise and wanted to go play in New York. So that was not a good look, and I didn't agree with it and thought he should have just played like everyone else, that the NFL is an organization and basically they're sending you to the Buffalo office or the Cleveland office or the Jacksonville office, and then you can do something about it in like 3 years. But for your first 3 years, you take your medicine. But he circumvented. But then he had a rocky up and down career. But when he was under the spotlight, he had 2 remarkable playoff runs.
Yeah.
And so he did pull through in the clutch.
Yeah, I grew up about 2 miles from Giant Stadium. I've been a huge fan. 2011, 2007 was great. But I think the difference is that Eli Manning had a track record of excellence at Ole Miss.
Sure.
And he was saying, I do not want to go to San Diego. Okay. Bryce Underwood wanted to go to LSU. He was committed to LSU. And at the last moment, he flips because of the money. Now, I understand people will say, would you not have taken the money? Well, honestly, if I was making $7 million and I was offered $9 or $10 million, no, I probably wouldn't take the additional money because I would feel like I have more than enough money. And I guess I'm kind of old-fashioned from the early to mid-'80s, where I believe we should be teaching these kids not only to be great football players, but to be productive citizens. And, you know, fighting for your position, persevering when you're on the bench, learning from failure, not just saying who's going to pay me the most or where can I transfer to. I worry it's a microcosm of a larger culture in this country that pervades academia and our classrooms, that is teaching kids to be soft and to be entitled rather than to be strong and to persevere through life's difficulties.
So the only last point that I have, Adam, on the point of the whole settlement, NIL structure, transfer portal, everything that's gone on over the last 5 years, and now what we are jettisoned into the future would be, I think we can share this analysis. I agree with you. I would love for the brain trust of college football, whatever that turns out to be, to have the brains and the integrity to try to come up with a system that balances the tension between what's best for these student athletes, truly best for them, not just giving them the most money, what's truly best for them that will reward them in the here and now, but also teach them, because they're supposed to be going to college to be developed mentally and professionally and physically. And then also what's best for the game. And what's best for the game is basically best for the fans. We support the game. Without us, the game doesn't. These guys are playing intramural football between after classes. This is what they're doing. If it's not, and then they got to go get a job at wherever they can. So the athletes, what's best for the student athletes, what's best for the sport, and then the tricky part that you're way ahead of me on is what's legal in putting all those together. So I would love to see whatever is the best of all 3 of those working together.
That's a fair point. And I was looking at the comments. My argument does not focus on Bryce Underwood. Maybe he'll be fantastic, but it was just an example of something that I was trying to argue more broadly. But Mark, thanks for having me on, and thanks for listening to my arguments. And it's always fun to talk to you.
Thanks, Adam.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Our guy, Adam, and I apologize for you having to look at me twice. What I'm playing there is a video that we posted a few days ago. These are, I don't want to call them Big 12. They're not Big 12 all-time rankings because it's not taking all the schools that have ever played in the Big 12 and ranking them. It's all the current schools in the Big 12 and ranking them top to bottom in regards to their all-time rankings. And again, I would say that we have the most exhaustive system here at the Voice of College Football. And if you can find another one that's more exhaustive, we've got 15 different criteria that we're looking at. And I believe my final rankings were aired there a number of times. So we went through NFL draft picks, number 1 selections, All-Americans, Heisman winners, award winners at every position. So that needs to be honored. And then more important than all that is winning percentage, rankings, conference championships, national championships, bowl wins, major bowl wins, etc. So surprising to many would be that Arizona State's been the most successful program over the course of its history. There could be a caveat there to West Virginia to a certain extent for a number of reasons, but they were out in front. All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Please check out the video that I'm showing you right there if you want a little bit more in-depth analysis on why the rankings landed the way they did. And it's what's perplexing to me and kind of, I already knew this going into it or could have predicted it, but it kind of underlines how inept Kansas State and Iowa State were for so long, that those are actually the two best programs in the conference now. And Kansas State has been arguably the best program in the conference. Well, aside from Oklahoma leaving, aside from Oklahoma obviously gone now, but the best remaining program in the Big 12 going back to the mid 90s would be Kansas State, probably. And then Iowa State would be over the last 5 years since Matt Campbell's elevated them. And that's how bad both of those programs have been. And will be a nice little showcase for the Big 12 starting out the 2020-25 season in Dublin, playing a conference game, Kansas State and Iowa State. So that should be a whole lot of fun for sure. All right. Do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for the contributions. Please hit the like button and subscribe on your way out. We'll see you Tuesday at 4 Eastern.